It's a hike. I'm so sorry.
At least he found it the first time, so.
I'm breaking the clock in my office too. It's 10 minutes.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order this evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our August 10th, 2016 meeting of the Pullman School Board. I appreciate everyone attending and all those that are joining us by television. First item on our agenda is a flag salute, so if everyone please stand and join us. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes, corrections, additions that we need to be aware of this evening? Does anybody have anything?
I have one change just to bring under number 7 action items B. ASB clubs, just to let you know that 4 clubs were added to the ASB club list: Debate Club, Culinary Club, Ruby Goldberg Club, and the Photography Clubs, excuse me.
Okay. Is there anything else that we need to change on our agenda?
I will move that we approve the agenda as revised this evening.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as it was revised, to add the 4 other clubs to our 7B, excuse me. Are there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the agenda as revised, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. So that is the agenda we will follow this evening. Next item is for visitors. And this part of the agenda is for anyone wishing to speak before the board, either as an individual or a member of a group. Visitors addressing the board will go to the microphone, and please state your name and address prior to presenting your information. Visitors are asked to limit your remarks to 3 minutes. The board will listen, but probably not discuss the topic at this time. The board may consider moving the topic presented to a future meeting date as a discussion item. Is there anyone that would like to come before the board this evening as a visitor? As I'm seeing nobody rushing to the podium, we will move on in the agenda for reports, correspondence, and programs. That brings us to board reports. I'll start down here to my far left with board member Susan Weed.
Good. Well, school's getting around the corner, and all the lists are out for school supplies. And speaking of school supplies, the Kiwanis again is running the Stuff the Bus collection for school supplies. It's a amazing thing that they do, and hopefully y'all can get out there and help support Stuff the Bus. And it goes through, I forgot to look it up, through
Saturday, I believe.
this Saturday?
Yes.
Okay. Just look for a
I
school
think-
bus and hand
I
stuff
think they're
up.
willing to take money even after that.
Oh, I think so.
Knowing Kiwanis as I do.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else, Susan?
that's it. Thank you, Dean.
Okay, Dr. Everman.
No report this evening, Dean.
Okay, Dr. Johansson.
Well, I just wanted to thank my Shannon for all the prep work, and fellow school board members, and Dr. Maxwell, and Assistant Superintendent Kramer for the time together at our advance yesterday. I thought it was very fruitful. Thanks to Susan for getting a little publicity out there that we're doing our job even during the week and during daytime and so on. Thanks for Joe for the excellent presentation on facilities and maintenance and risk management, and I hope all went well with the construction meeting. So I came away really energized by the discussion and hopeful, particularly our discussions about student achievement.
Anything else? Okay, very good, thank you. Dr. Mashrotolo.
Just a reminder to colleagues, if you've accepted an assignment for the Board of Distinction nomination, be working on it.
Right.
I'm thinking about it. Does that count?
Yesterday's conversation was a good start, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think so, too.
300 words is not a lot, so.
I had,
It is when you're in radio and you only have 30 seconds sound bite.
I said more than 300 in my board report. So.
anything
All
else?
right, fine.
No,
Okay. I just want to report that I had started it. I had a file on my work computer and I got ransomwared.
uh-oh.
I'm not paying the ransom, so I'm starting over. It was an experience I could have avoided, I hope, but I don't know where
Are
it
you
came from.
suggesting what you'd previously written wasn't worth paying for? Or?
Something to that effect, yes.
At least not as much as the
Right,
ransomers wanted.
that's for sure, yeah. And I have no report this evening either, so I'll pass it on to Dr. Maxwell for the superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. First item I have is Stephanie Schweitzer has offered to give the board a tour of the cell facilities. And if you are interested in that, Shannon has graciously volunteered to find a date and set that up for us. So if the board would be interested, we will work on getting that set up.
I think it'd be fascinating. Sure.
Consensus, are we interested?
Sure.
Okay.
This we,
Yes, please.
Okay, Shannon?
Yep.
All right.
thank you.
Also, just a note that the administrative advance will be at the Residence Inn tomorrow from 8 to 4, and if you're in the area, want to swing by, please feel free. We have plenty of hard work ahead of us, and we'll be sharing some of the board material and information with the admin team to align that. Also, if you just like lunch, we have Stuff the Bus kickoff at Gladish, noon to 1, so you're all invited to come if you're able to make that. If you're in the area, please feel free to swing by. That'll be in the view room. I just want to also make a note that transportation, food and nutrition, maintenance facilities, and the district office have been working very hard this summer to prepare for the start of school, and sometimes we forget that many of us are still working over the summer and putting in a lot of effort to make sure we get off to a smooth start. So I just wanted to acknowledge those folks because sometimes they don't receive all the acknowledgement that they deserve. Also, just for your information, new teacher orientation is scheduled for August 16th and 17th. And so we'll be meeting with all the new teachers that we've hired over the summer and will hire in the next week or so, I hope. We have a couple of last minute openings. And then just a note, Friday night, August 19th, at the Lentil Festival, the Pullman Public Schools and Pullman Education Foundation will be co-sponsoring and sharing a booth. And so if you're at the Lentil Festival Friday night, please swing by. Or if you feel like volunteering, come on by. So, but just to let you know that we are going to be there Friday night, dispensing information and meeting with the public. So, Roberta, anything like that? Okay. Construction update? Construction update, PHS continuing to make a lot of progress. As you may have noticed coming in, landscaping is moving right along, looking very nice. The floor in the commons is complete, and I believe we're finishing that floor currently. And as we speak, actually, they're working on it, so to get it ready for the beginning of school year. Drywalling, painting is in full swing in the second wing, and actually third wing, I think they're going to start drywalling fairly soon. Concession stand is, may not seem like it, but it is moving along very well. We're hoping to have that ready for the first football game. So,
I've
also,
noted that there's also restrooms in there.
yes, so, and from what I haven't been inside, but from what I understand, a lot of the inside work is completed or near finishing, and most of it is the outside work that needs to be completed. Asphalt was scheduled to, I think, to start tomorrow. I think we may have to delay that till Friday due to the rain, or possibly Monday. Correct, Joe? Asphalt?
Actually, this road will be done tomorrow and Friday.
Thank you.
What they can't do Friday is the area in front of it, so.
Correct, okay. So asphalting will start tomorrow. JES, 4 additional classrooms are scheduled to be substantially completed by August 15th. So we're looking forward to that date, so I'll keep you informed. And the new elementary number 4, which soon, by the end of this month, should have a name, so we can start connecting that. But the exploratory boring has been completed and positive results with no bedrock found. So I do have a copy of the report if you're interested in looking at it. It's pretty technical, but just to let you know, they did do 3 bores on the site, so, and they all came out positive. But if you'd like to know more about the soil type, depth, or moisture content, let me know. So I'll be happy to share that. And the temporary access road to the site is planned for September.
Good.
So that's the construction update.
Okay, anything else?
I think that's it.
Right.
Hopefully I haven't forgotten anything, so.
All right, that brings us to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. The consent agenda is used to expedite business at our board meetings. The board approves the use of the consent agenda, which includes items considered to be routine in nature. Any item that appears on the consent agenda may be removed from the consent agenda by any single member of the board and voted on separately. The remaining items will be voted on by a single motion. Tonight we have the minutes of our last meeting, expense warrants, personnel reports, and professional personnel service report. So is there anything that any board member would like to remove from the consent agenda?
I will move that we approve the consent agenda as presented this evening.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you. That brings us to our action items for this evening. And the first action item is Resolution 161701, which is our 2016-17 budget adoption. This was presented to us at our last meeting under discussion items, so we've had time to thoroughly look it over and ask any questions we had of our finance manager, Diane Hodge. And to present it this evening is our finance manager, Diane Hodge.
So in the board packet, there's a detailed explanation of Pullman School District's budget. And then at the last meeting, I did a presentation of a summary of that summary. So if there's no questions, we would recommend that we adopt the 2016-17 budget.
Are there any comments or questions concerning the budget that's been presented in front of us here?
Diane, would you remind me, I know it's in there, but what FTE? we projected and approved?
2,740. So what we did is we took this year's, basically what it broke down to is we took this year's average enrollment, and then we added 115 kids for the full-time kindergarten, and that came out to 2,740.
That's right, because the kindergartners don't count to half. Okay, thank you.
All right, any
Well-
further comments, questions, or discussion?
Is this the resolution? We need to move to adopt the resolution 161701?
Yes.
Well, I will move that we adopt a resolution 161701, the 2016-17 budget.
Second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept Resolution 161701, our 2016-17 budget for the Pullman School District. Is there any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to item B on our agenda under action items, which is 2016-17 ASB clubs and fundraisers. And to present that is Joe Thornton, our Executive Director of Operations. Joe?
Good evening, thank you. At the last board meeting, we brought forward the list of clubs and fundraisers, scheduled clubs and fundraisers for the schools. We've added 4 that slipped through. These were clubs that were added last year, and when the list was forwarded to us from Lincoln, they forgot about those 4 added clubs. Photography, debate, culinary arts, and Rube Goldberg. It's ironic that the Rube Goldberg Club would get left off. It's just, there's some irony. Somewhere in there's some irony. So we're recommending that those clubs and fundraisers be approved.
Okay.
So was debate at the high school or the middle school?
That's at the middle school.
Okay.
Yeah. The version of debate the high school does is JSA. Any questions?
Just maybe not appropriate for this discussion, but the mention of debate. Has there been talk or exploration with you and previously when you were principal and with our athletic director or activities director, Mr. Franklin, about formally adding forensics here? Do we have anybody that in our league that also competes or?
We do not have anybody in our league that competes. Several of the Spokane schools do compete. So if we were to compete, we'd have to compete with them. And that's very similar to what we see happening with like Math Team and Knowledge Bowl. We're competing with, for example, in those competitions we compete with St. George's, a much smaller school. We also compete with Ferris, a much larger school. So it's brought up once in a while.
It was a really important part of me going to school and along with activities. I didn't have to choose between all 3 seasons and forensics, but that was a long time ago. But I really think that that's a valuable activity. I know that many of our students are actually doing that and so on, not in the formal sense, but in another aspect within FFA and have done well. So it's not as if it's not something that's formally done in our district, but I would really hope that sometime that have a WIAA compliant forensics program.
And I have experienced firsthand on many occasions the students' abilities to present a logical argument. So I will certainly mention that to Mr. Hines and Mr. Franklin about your comment.
Okay. Any further comments?
If we did, I would be glad to help with advisor or whatever was needed.
Okay.
I agree with Carl's comment, although I would not offer to help.
But you would offer Carl to help.
Yes,
Yeah.
by all means.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
I move approval of the 2016-17 ASB clubs and fundraisers as presented.
I will second.
It has been moved and seconded that the board approve the anticipated clubs and fundraisers as presented for the fiscal year 2016 and 17. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of approving the anticipated clubs and fundraisers presented for the fiscal year 2016-17, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. The next item on our agenda is prime vendor contract renewal, and to present that is Executive Director of Operations Joe Thornton. Joe?
Thank you. At the last meeting, I brought forward on the behalf of Sheba Null, our Director of Food Services, the request to approve our ongoing contract with Food Service of America for groceries, basically. And the beauty of that agreement, it allows us to piggyback onto the agreement that District 81 has with Food Service America. So we're able to have those same prices that District 81 has, which is a great benefit and great cost saving. So we're requesting approval of that continuing contract with FSA for groceries.
Okay, any comments or questions?
I will move that the board exercise the option to renew the yearly prime vendor contract with Food Services of America for the 2016-17 school year.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the board exercise the option to renew the yearly prime vendor contract with Food Services of America for the 16-17 school year. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to item D, which is the dairy bids, and to present that is Joe Thornton once again. Joe?
Thank you, and also last time on the behalf of Sheba, I brought forth her request to approve another year contract with Meadow Gold Dairy for supplying milk to the schools. Again, the Meadow Gold has been a wonderful vendor. All their delivery people are wonderful. They know the schools. So Sheba is, the differences between the two bids is always minimal. We talked last time briefly about the reality of the dairy industry. Actually, Susan and I were talking about that. So we're requesting the approval of the bid to continue the contract with Meadow Gold Dairy.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
I will move that the board award the dairy agreement for the fiscal year 2016-17 to Meadow Gold Dairy.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The board award the dairy agreement for the fiscal year 2016-17 to Meadow Gold Dairy. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. And that brings us to item E on our action item list, which is the new elementary school education specifications. And to present that again is Mr. Joe Thornton.
So at the last meeting, we brought forward the ed specs that had been put together by Design West Architects. That was built with discussions from the users, teachers, administrators, custodians, maintenance staff, transportation. And that is, for all intents and purposes, the foundation of how they begin to design a building, how they begin to design how a building's going to be used. So that information, along with the, obviously, building code, along with the architect's artistic design, and of course, budget, will ultimately help us settle on what that building is going to look like. So ed specs is the beginning of that process. A very thorough document. It's a pretty thick binder. We made it available to the community. We did actually have a community member come by the district office and look through it, which was very good. Cool. So that's good to see. And that was an outcome from the community presentation that Design West did and Dr. Maxwell did. So we are requesting that the board approve the ed specs for the new elementary school.
Comments, questions, discussion?
Did the community member leave any comments? Or?
No, she did sit for a while and review them and seemed very interested and didn't leave any feedback one way or the other. She didn't seem concerned.
Okay.
Just an additional side note to that, at our meeting today, Design West does have a tentative schedule for additional community and staff information meetings and forums. And tentatively, those are scheduled in September and November, as well as another opportunity for what they call an integrated design workshop, which will also be held in September. As soon as we have those dates finalized, I'll be happy to share that with you. But there are additional opportunities as this process evolves for staff and community input and information. So just a background onto that, Joe.
Any further comments, questions, or discussion?
No, I will move that we approve the educational specifications for the new elementary school.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the educational specifications for our new elementary school as presented. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you very much,
Thank
Joe.
you.
Thank you, Joe. Boy, we put you through your paces tonight.
I'm not done.
Okay.
He'll be back, so it'll be,
Yep, he will be.
We'll be back.
That brings us to item F under action items, and that is Policy 3114, home base and off-campus student enrollment in the district programs for ancillary services. And present that as Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you very much. So, again, this was brought before you at our previous meeting. And again, this is just, we're bringing it back after meeting with our counselors and staff to review the policy 31 and procedure 3114. We had just some very minor clarifications, and we went over those last time. One was just some wording. The Pullman School District Board of Directors recognizes that home-based and off-campus students are permitted to enroll in courses or enroll in and receive ancillary services. So just a clarification between courses and ancillary services. And then a student may, at any time prior to their senior year, enroll as a public school student for the purpose of earning a high school diploma. Again, just to clarify, that doesn't permit somebody not to enroll in their senior year, but there's a different set of regulations that go with that and requirements. So just two very minor clarifications to bring to your attention and consideration.
Any comments, questions, or discussion concerning that? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the revisions to policy 3114, home-based and off-campus students enrolled in district programs for ancillary services.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the revisions to policy 3114, home-based and off-campus student enrollment in district programs and ancillary services, excuse me. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That brings us to our discussion items for this evening, and most often these items are just discussed at the first meeting, and then we move them to an action item at our next meeting. And so the first discussion item this evening is the 2016-17 fee schedule, and to present that is Superintendent Maxwell.
Thank you very much. As you know, we occasionally bring this before the board with fee schedules, and typically we try to avoid increases as much as possible, but costs continue to rise, and so we'd like for your consideration, for you to consider the following fee changes. At LMS, the change would be a $1 increase in the cost of a PE uniform, which would be 50 cents increase for shorts and 50 cents for a shirt. Changes to the PHS fee schedule include removal of the $5 locker fee, because the new lockers have built-in lock combinations, but they would like to see if they could add in a $5 increase for the ASB card to $30. So basically it would be necessarily no increase, but a change of not charging a locker fee, but adding that to the ASB card. So.
And the uniforms aren't required, are they, for Lincoln?
Yes,
For-
they
yes,
are.
Oh, they
are.
are.
Lincoln.
So how much total would the cost be then?
That's a great question. Let me see if we have that further in
I
the
think it'd be
document.
13, then. Yeah.
Yeah, it's $13.
Okay, thank you.
So, sorry, I didn't know that.
It was
I should, because I have a
$6,
middle
I think.
schooler.
Something
That's embarrassing.
kind of nice is they take all the leftovers that get left there, they wash them, they
Yep.
white out the names, and then, so in my case, we somehow lost over a summer one time a shirt or shorts or whatever. You can just take it for free, because somebody's already paid for it. And it's a vast, vast pile. So
Oh, I bet.
I mean,
They typically have those available at registration. And so
Yeah.
there's a huge
Oh, good.
coat rack with
I see that fee increase as having zero impact, really. The ASB thing might be a different story, but.
Well, the ASB thing is a wash.
Yeah,
The total amount would be a wash at the high school, but it would be, what they're asking to do is shift that $5, so they would continue to collect the same amount, but it would be more towards the ASB card, but.
No?
Well, a locker lock you pay for once, and you can reuse it all 4 years.
Okay, fine, fine,
So
fine.
that, if it stayed the
it's
same, that's a
$15
$20
additional.
increase, right, over 4 years.
Over 4 years.
Yeah,
So it's,
No, it's a $15 increase because you would have bought,
the lock.
yeah.
as long as we're being accurate.
Forensic advisor.
yes. Is this time sensitive, being that we're coming up on the start of school in
Unless you use
3 weeks
your
here
law.
or so?
Right.
Neither principal indicated that this was a time-sensitive issue, so
Okay,
even though it will be quite close to the start of the school year.
it will be.
Did the ASB suggest the increase?
That I am not sure of, and I don't know, Joe, do you know any background information on that?
I believe they did. I'm not going to swear to that, but I believe they did.
I mean, if it came from them, then I would be
And I can find
confident,
that
but
out.
that's kind of something like, it'd be nice to know in the packet, like,
Yeah.
who reviewed this actually, you know?
I would think that we might want to think about approving this tonight, because aren't they going to have printed materials out to the
They should.
parents
Yeah.
before 2 weeks are up? I would hope.
That was my
It's
thought.
next Tuesday. Some friends of mine are on vacation and I'm picking up for their student. And I think it's next Tuesday, right? 18th?
Monday and Tuesday for the high school, Wednesday, Thursday for the middle.
So
So
we
they
should
need
have
to-
it approved.
I
Approve
would
it.
think that it would be prudent to. So I will move that we move this to an action item this
Second.
evening.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move the 2016-17 fee schedule to an action item. Any further comments, questions, or discussion about that? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of moving it to an action item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Okay, it's been approved to move it to an action item. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Or also, I would accept the motion at this point.
I'll accept the motion for the approval of the 2016-17 fee schedules.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve the 2016-17 LMS and PHS fee schedule. Any further comments, questions, or discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the standing motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carried, so they can go ahead and
Thank you.
get that going.
And we'll find out about the recommendation. Thank you, Shannon.
All right, that brings us to item B under discussion items, and that is classrooms for the new elementary school. And to present that is Mr. Joe Thornton, our Executive Director of Operations. Joe?
So as you're well aware, because we just talked about it, the design for the new elementary school is proceeding. When we initially presented to the community that bond, it was with the understanding that it was going to be roughly an 18 classroom building, of course, depending upon budget and building costs and economies that we can find. Since that time, the district was successful in getting the class size reduction grant for a total of $7.4 million, thank you, Diane, which would allow us to make that a larger building and hopefully absorb growth as it comes, as opposed to frantically trying to build classrooms. We need to really give the architects some direction as to which way to go, because they're getting to the point of now that they have a sense of how all the spaces need to get used, how are they going to fit all those together, how they can fit all together on the piece of property we have. So we are presenting a consideration to the board to give us direction on proceeding with 24 classrooms for the design of the new elementary school. questions?
I don't see the downside of adding the additional classrooms. So,
Absolutely, absolutely not. I agree with you completely.
And I just want to point out that in the original bond, we had talked about 18 with the core infrastructure designed to handle 24 down the road, which we were already anticipating we would probably be adding.
right.
And with the grant, I think that changed our, or helped maybe facilitate our thinking on which direction to go. So I just wanted to point that out, that in the original bond and discussion that we had talked about in the future, increasing that most likely to a 24 classroom building, so.
I think it would be prudent to proceed with the 24.
And it would be difficult to calculate exactly, but to build those 6 additional classrooms while that building's being built versus, even though it's gonna have a core for 24, we could go back in and add classrooms later like we did at Franklin, like we're doing at Jefferson. But to build those 6 extra classrooms while a contractor's mobilized and building, those classrooms are gonna be built at a fraction of a cost of what we could do later on.
Are they gonna keep in mind that in the design, the chance, oh please, no, that we may need even more classrooms down the road?
You know, I think that's something we always ask an architect to think about. You know, the architects and the design of this building have a couple of possibilities for us if we get to that point. I think that's something we always ask them to think about. So, I think that's something they'll have on their radar.
I hope so, okay.
I believe that it's prudent to do it for the reasons that Joe mentioned, primarily at doing it right now, even though it means that less funds will be available for other projects under the way we designed the bond. And even though some of those projects are pressing, like the busing facilities and maintenance and so on that we talked about yesterday extensively at the advance, at the meeting. I think it just is, the timing is right to do that when we're not even certain about what other things we're going to do with any surplus funds that we have from the bond.
I just want to avoid having to do another bond within the next, 20 years. Just, well, I mean, we've asked so much of our community, and they're so nice to support us, but I think we'd be pushing our luck, so.
But I think the
This looks
value
good.
of what we've done so far is that it's very visual. Constituents can see the new high school, the additions to the elementary schools, the increased enrollment, class size reduction. I mean, it's not like it's been very transparent, very open. I mean,
Well, yeah, that's not the problem, but there's so many other, the fire department wants, the county wants, the hospital wants, so I think we'll just, be nice to be able to hold back a little bit for a while. Please.
And in case you're wondering, this is not an urgent item, meaning that we do not need this approved tonight. The architects are content to wait 2 weeks to have that answer definitively, but certainly in 2 weeks, they'll need to have a clear direction.
good.
No, we were fortunate to get that grant
Yeah,
when we put it to good
Absolutely.
use.
Absolutely.
thank you, Joe.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
All right, that actually completes our discussion item list for this evening. There are some informational items in our packets, administrative requirement updates, board calendar, and promotional material distributed and displayed through the schools. I believe we are going to have a closed session tonight for contract negotiation information.
Correct.
Okay. So if there are no objections, what we will do is we will recess our regular meeting until the room is cleared and enter into a closed session for probably 15 to 20 minutes. Of course, no action will be taken after the closed session. It's basically to update us on contract negotiations, so we know where we're at on that issue. So are there any objections to recessing and moving into a closed session? Okay. And this meeting is in recess for whatever it takes, and everyone's welcome to come up and ask questions or get information that you might need at this time.